John here from NoJokeNHL, here with our Wednesday, October 2nd report. Last night was not a great night for me here at NoJokeNHL. I pretty much lost on every play, including a live play that I tweeted out on the Capitals at +1.5 at the first intermission. It was -120 on that. I was looking at it as like a saver bet. They were only down 1 at the time, 2-1, and I really liked what I saw, the way they were skating. Grabowski looked solid, Ovechkin looked solid. They were confident, and so I figured +1.5, a great saver bet. Looked insanely solid when the Capitals were up 4-3 with 10 minutes left to go in the third period, and lo and behold, the Blackhawks cover the 1.5 with 3 goals in the last 10 minutes, including an empty netter with Marian Hossa on a takedown by Mike Green. Definitely an excellent game for both teams. The Caps skaters, their power play, you can really see why it's just such a weapon. They bring all kind of looks and angles, and like I said, with Grabowski now, they really have a solid passer. He has great hands. Obviously, he's not going to get that kind of production every night. 3 goals and a couple of them might have been questionable as just tip-ins, but nonetheless, he's certainly making things happen where Ribeiro never did here with the Capitals. So as I was suggesting before last night's game, Capitals definitely look better, even better than they were last year, which should be scary for the rest of the league. And while I'm there, why don't we talk about the team that beat them by 2 goals, the Chicago Blackhawks, in a spot that everybody and their mom was on, fading the championship banner-raising team, and they played outstanding. Patrick Kane, absolute magician with the puck. It's power, finesse. It's crazy stuff. That guy is just insanely good. And the Hawks, haven't missed a beat. Crawford was outstanding down the stretch, killing off a 2-man advantage. So, kudos to the champs. I'm not saying they're going to make a run through it. An 82-game season is a lot longer than a 48 one, obviously, and so I'm not predicting they're going to go to the Cup, and it's really not worth it to jump on them anyway as the 6-1 co-favorite with Pittsburgh. But anyway, they looked rock solid. The other play we had last night, we were on the -1.5 both ways in Toronto-Montreal. We got backdoored by a Montreal goal. We were Toronto up 4-2. It was actually the better side of the puck line. We were going to get +325 on Toronto to cover that. They were doing that well up until 2.5 minutes to go, and lo and behold, we get the meaningless goal to make it a 1-goal difference, and we ended up taking a 2-unit loss for that. Dave Tooley of ViewFromVegas.com, where I post my plays every day, raised the question, like, do I or should I play the over on those games where I suggest the -1.5? And it's a very interesting question. I wanted to answer it in the video today. I answered it a little bit online last night, but basically speaking, it probably is a good move. I haven't tracked it side by side or done a comparison study with it, but it probably, if my handicapping is I'm looking at free flow games, back and forth where either team wins by more than 2 goals or more margin, then it probably leads to a sensible over. However, the profit on the -1.5 for me kind of exceeds that. Last night, certainly the over click was 7 goals. You could have got over 5.5 at even money. Certainly not a bad take if you were on that. But at the same time, with doing the -1.5, we were set to profit 2.25 units, versus just that 1 unit on the total. And I'm reluctant to get the increased exposure by playing the total in addition to that, just in case we get a crazy result or even a very normal result, 3-2, one of these teams. So which very well could have come out that way. So for me, I'm probably going to stick with the -1.5. If your book doesn't offer that's probably a great alternative, though, and an excellent point by Dave, that probably playing that over makes sense, especially if you can't get down on the -1.5, or you just feel reluctant to go 2 units on anything. As like I said, that was a 2-unit loss. We had Washington and Chicago to go to OT. They certainly were skating right there. It was 5-4 Blackhawks, and Capitals had a 2-man advantage. Certainly was looking for the tying goal right there, which probably would have meant for overtime. And so that was a rock solid play. Just didn't get the bounces. Same as in the Toronto-Montreal. Just didn't. It wasn't like I was blatantly on the wrong side or predicted that things wrong. It just bounces did not go our way when we really needed them. Edmonton ends up losing 5-4 to Winnipeg. They were took the early lead. Were up 2 goals and then ended up giving up 3 in a row. They scored 3 in a row, but before Winnipeg scored 3 in a row to take the game 5-4. So Edmonton looks like they're very very exciting on offense, but they also look pretty dreary on defense as well. And so maybe the overs were tied, or maybe the overs can be tied to them in future plays. Like I said, I'm going to monitor for a little while with that. All right, moving on to tonight's schedule. We have 3 games on the card tonight, and then tomorrow we have a 7 or 8 game card. I'm actually more excited about that card. I'm not really seeing anything that I really like tonight, but I wanted to go over the games and at least give a breakdown from my perspective what's going on. So tonight, Toronto Maple Leafs on the second end of a road back-to-back against the Flyers. Definitely not a good spot for really any team to do. They did look great on offense last night. Of course, Reimer is a little shaky, in net, and so he's listed as the starter again tonight. And of course, Flyers going with Steve Mason. I don't know why they're doing that with Emery, but I guess Emery is going to be the backup until he earns otherwise. And with the play of Mason, at least the play of Mason in Columbus certainly would warrant that Emery would be the starter. But he's done rather well with the Flyers, or at least better than he always did against Columbus. Although I would probably make Emery my number 1 and Mason the backup. But nonetheless, Flyers are going with him tonight. So that's kind of a wild card for me. I was kind of thinking maybe Flyers. Before any preseason games were played, and I know the Flyers really look bad in the preseason, so that's why this changed a little bit. But before the preseason even started, I lined this probably at like Flyers minus 170. Thinking about the Toronto back-to-back, etc. So this is kind of low for me. It's actually all the way down to minus 125 on Philly. So I guess a lot of Mason hate, and of course Toronto. Everybody's gotten a look at them. They looked kind of exciting, on offense. I mean, definitely gave up some goals on defense, but they certainly looked to have a solid offense. Bozak had a great game as well. So I can see where the Toronto love is coming, but this is a really bad spot for them. So it's if I would do anything, I would get on the Flyers, especially if this keeps falling down. If this gets to be close to a pick-em, I'm certainly going to take the Flyers in a home opener over Toronto. Moving on to the next game, Buffalo Sabres at the Detroit Red Wings. We got the Red Wings, a solid minus 190 favorite on home ice against the plus 162 comeback. I'm using these lines from Chris or Bookmaker. And at the puck line, Detroit is a short plus 162. Everybody knows my feelings on that, or if you don't, let me explain it quickly. I don't use the puck line. Some people think I just use the puck line religiously all the time. I have a low limit on that, and that's actually plus 180, and that's really an exceptional kind of thing. Generally, I don't like to go plus 190 on a puck line. So you'll never see me taking a team that's minus 300 money line and laying the puck line so I can get them at minus 110. That's just really a bad play, and it's a really, really low return on expecting a team to win by 2 or more goals. If a team's favored that heavy, then sometimes you have to look at what's their motivation for necessarily slaughtering a team coming in there when they might have a bigger game on the schedule down the road. So it's not something I do. So Detroit certainly falls under that. Flyers actually, by the way, a gaudy plus 215. On the minus 1.5, they weren't quite as high. Like I said, the money's been falling towards Toronto. So like I said, this could go higher and higher. But with Mason in goal, I'm not sure I could trust them to trust the Flyers, even if they had a 2-goal lead late in the game, to maintain it. To do that. So like I said, if it gets close to pick, I'm going to be on Flyers money line. Detroit Sabres is going to be a pass on here. A lot of people pounding the under. Of course, the Flyers Toronto certainly a likely over, and you're certainly paying a premium for that. Prices anywhere as high as minus 145 here at Chris, and I've seen the lowest I've seen in the last hour, 135. So if you got on this early, you got on this yesterday at over at minus 110, minus 115. Kudos to you. That's the kind of moves you really need to make. A lot of books put their next day lines up before any of the action the night before. So certainly, if your handicapping takes you somewhere and puts it in there, that's the way you really need to get the best of these numbers, because the public's just going to follow blindly with what's going on. The books are going to make that slight adjustment from like minus 110 to 115, 120. The public's going to see that and go, oh, the smart money's on this or whatever. I'm not really sure that there is smart money in hockey. I think it's a really small sport. I mean, the limits are relatively low, 5,000 generally. So, it's not like an NFL Sunday where you can plunk down, six figures like Mayweather. And, of course, Mayweather doesn't even move the line when he does that because, he's just a regular gambler. But, you get the point. I mean, there's not big money flying around here. So the books really, don't see much of a liability going on here. So, the money just comes in, and they adjust accordingly. And like I said, because it comes in just small chunks. I can't really see smart money really moving it unless it's a syndicate type move or something like that where they're just hitting it at several properties or several sites at a time. Moving on to the next game, Anaheim Ducks at the Colorado Avalanche. And early in September, I lined this game before any preseason games were played at Anaheim -120 with comeback even on the Colorado Avalanche. And the line today is actually a flip-flop from that. It's Colorado at -120 and Anaheim at even money at this point. I kind of like Colorado at home. I mean, Varlamov generally plays better in the altitude there. One day will be Wumpus tweeted out that Anaheim's been practicing there, so they're getting themselves acclimated. Oh man, they're getting themselves acclimated to the altitude. So maybe they're a little prepared for this. But it kind of makes sense taking Colorado. I don't know if I could really do Colorado, money line here. It's probably the right side at Pick'em. So, again, a smart move. You got in at Pick'em or even a little bit of plus money before that. And Anaheim might have been -115 at one point. But nonetheless, this line got away from me. These games are really just unappealing to me tonight. I mean, I was looking at the Flyers Leafs, but like I said, with Flyers starting Mason, it's really not something that I'm jumping in on. I really don't see any possibilities of draws here. Probably a juicy price Detroit Buffalo, but again, I really don't know what to expect from either one of those teams. And looking back, their history doesn't really reveal anything of the sort. So for me, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines tonight. Like I said, if Flyers get down close to Pick'em, then I'll tweet out that I'm on that. But other than that, I'm just going to hang out and wait for tomorrow night. None of the outs that I use have lines up yet for tomorrow night, so I'm just going to wait till later in the afternoon to start looking at those. And of course, if anything catches my eye, I will hit everybody up and tell them what's going on. So as always, let's drop the puck, and even more importantly, let's make some money.